Hi, I'm Grace Speroni, and welcome to Conversations with the ERC5. Today, as my guest, I have Matt Bannister, Senior Vice President of Marketing and Corporate Responsibility with us. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Grace. Appreciate the invite.
I appreciate you being here. And just before we went on the air, I said how I'm so excited to talk about corporate responsibility. So can you tell us a little bit about your role at Peoples and what does corporate responsibility mean and entail?
I would love to.
Okay.
Corporate responsibility, as a mutual bank, we give out grants to the community where we do business. So we are active in Hampden County, Hampshire County, and Hartford County as well. And so unlike a stock-owned bank where profits are diverted to stockholders, we put our profits and invest them into the community where we do business, and we think not only is it a good business practice, but it's the right thing to do. It really is. And so we provide $1.6 million in funding each year to nonprofits in the area. Sounds like a lot, and it is, but last year we funded 450 nonprofits, and so if you do the math, it's $3,000 or $4,000 per grant. So it's not huge amounts, but we help a lot of charities throughout the area, and so that's what corporate responsibility is. It's doing the right thing. Our associates also volunteer in the community, so it's not just providing money, but it's rolling up your sleeves and working at a food pantry or at a shelter or something. So we also have associates who are very active in the community as well.
So I've noticed that. So I've been watching Peoples and following all this wonderful stuff that you're doing. And I'm like, gosh, PeoplesBank is just great. And I love that you have your employees. It's not just you out there.
Yeah.
Your employees are out there engaged in, as you said, rolling up their sleeves, helping out in the community in various ways. Yeah. How do you get that kind of collaboration from everyone? I think that's just amazing.
It is, and it's part of our DNA, and it's part of our culture. And when people interview at PeoplesBank, a lot of times they will say, I want to work at a company that's known for giving back. And so it attracts a different caliber of employee, and then once they arrive, they practice what they preach, and they do it. And so we are standing on the shoulders of giants, of generations of PeoplesBank people who have done this for years and years, and it's just part of our culture and part of the tradition. It's an expectation if you join the organization that you'll give back in some way. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love that. And I was telling my daughters, I'm like, oh, you know what? I would love to have this job. I'm like, I want to be corporate responsibility. I love it. And they pointed out to me, you would have the hardest time doing this. You would be the worst person for this role. Because they're like, you have to make decisions about where you're going to share the wealth and who will you impact. So I started to think about that, and I thought, wow, that is really challenging. How do you? Because there are so many wonderful, amazing nonprofits out there. What's the criteria? How do you do that? That's a heavy load for you to carry.
It is. So it's funny you mentioned that. Some people are convinced I have the best job in the bank, and some people are convinced I have the worst job in the bank. And it
I
really,
went from both extremes.
Right, yeah. Part of it is, we have the culture of volunteerism. Part of my job is to be the face of the bank in the community. And so that necessitates going to a lot of events. We have a lot of associates who go to a few events. We have a few who go to a lot of events. And that's part of the worst part of the job, if you will, is you have to always be on, and there are weeknights and weekends, and it's a lot of events to go to, because when you show up, the organizers of the event notice who's there and who isn't there. And it's nice to have the bank there as well. But so to your question about how do we decide, we have a philosophy of giving a little to a lot of groups rather than a lot to a few groups. And so a capital campaign to build a new hospital wing or something like that, most likely we're going to be on the sidelines for those, with a few exceptions, because one big yes means a lot of little no's. And we don't like to say no, because the nonprofits, there are an awful lot of nonprofits that are doing great work, but they don't have the name recognition, and they might fly under the radar, but it doesn't mean the cause that they're supporting, the people who are involved with that cause aren't important, and isn't their mission is not important. And so our philosophy is to give a little to a lot, because we hate to say no. It's challenging when we beat our chest about how much money we give, and then somebody comes and asks and we have to say no to them. That's a real double-edged sword there. And so we try to avoid that as much as we can. The grants that we give, so we have funding focus areas. So there are certain areas that we've prioritized as an organization, and it's housing and food insecurity, it's social services, environmental sustainability, literacy, both financial literacy, which is a skill that is lacking in many folks these days, and also literacy, early childhood literacy, so being able to read at a grade appropriate level. So those are funding focus areas, so they automatically get at least one check on their side of the scale of whether we're going to fund it or not. The other is, do we have an associate who's involved with the organization? And so if someone is already volunteering, we have a saying, if it's important to an associate, it's important to us. And so if someone is with a food bank or a church group or their town little league, we support what our employees support, because that's part of employee engagement and a good culture as well. So, and then honestly, sometimes if they're a customer of the bank, I would say that's another grain of sand that goes on the scale as well. And so are you in the right funding focus area? Are you within our geography? Do we have an associate who is already involved? Are really the criteria that we use. And we try and turn our decisions around very quickly. We don't like, if you go into your local branch or banking center and you want a Little League sponsorship for $100, you don't want that person to have to go back to corporate and they have to fill out a form and all of that. So we try and empower our frontline associates to say yes as often as possible. And then we try and turn our grant requests around as quickly as possible as well. So that's a little bit of a snapshot behind the curtain. Yeah.
Well, those are great guidelines, I feel. And something that you said, if I can just circle back.
Yep.
So I want to share. My husband was a retired police officer, detective after 35 years. So the run to remember was very big for our family. We would go down there every Memorial Day, and we ran the race. And then Chris Allard from Square One, fabulous lady, she did a ride to remember
the
at
indoor
Scantic
ride.
Valley, and it was like, well, we have to be there. So, we signed up and we're going down there because we believe strongly in this wonderful group. And it was a Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, and I was the second ride because I said the first ride's too early for me. And we're in the hallway ready to go in, and guess who came out? You did. And I thought, wow, I was very impressed. Then to what you said, that was really amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Not only do they support this, but they support with their presence. And for me, that meant the world. And I thought it spoke volumes, because here's a Sunday. So you could have easily have said, 9 to 5, it's Sunday, I don't think I'm going to be there. But you were. Like, you really, I felt like, took ownership of that.
Well,
and I was so impressed. That was wonderful.
I'll confess a little bit. I'm a cyclist. It is when I'm asked what I like to do outside the office for fun, it's cycling and road cycling. And so the fact that it was a cycling event had my hand going up to volunteer even quicker. So I will say there's a little bit of a personal bias in there as well. But so Ride to Remember, great example. So it was started by John Delaney, sergeant at the time with the Springfield Police, to fund the fallen officer memorial at the State House in Boston. But they have branched out, and they are now funding groups like Christina's House and Square One and other nonprofits, because they raise a lot of money and they want a lot of that money to stay locally as well. And so that's a great example of a nonprofit that isn't national. It isn't on a lot of people's radars necessarily, but they're doing good work for good people. And those are the types of groups that we like to support, because they may not get that support because of the lack of name recognition as well. And fallen police officers is certainly a very non-controversial cause that all of us can get behind as well. What they're doing is for the right reason, and their hearts are in the right place. And as I said, plus it's a cycling event, so I naturally gravitate towards it.
Still, on a Sunday morning, bright and early, I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
I thought that was really wonderful, and it resonated for us. And our time is coming to a close, unfortunately, because I think we should. There's so many more things I wanted to talk about. But what you also do when you sponsor these nonprofits, when you fund these campaigns, you're also lending your name and your brand, and then they in turn get that social media spotlight. They get the recognition, so it's like a twofold win for them. So thank you so much for doing that.
We will often sign up to be a sponsor as a linchpin for them to then go out and get other sponsors using the sales. Well, PeoplesBank is already on board, so how about you? And that first follower enables, I think, them to get other folks into the fold
to come on board.
The point you make about the brand and brand equity, we want to be visible from a business point of view. We want to be visible in as many places as we can, supporting as many causes as we can, because if it's an Alzheimer's event, for instance, and you walk into an Alzheimer's event and you see the PeoplesBank logo, our thought is, I care about Alzheimer's, PeoplesBank cares about Alzheimer's, maybe I care about PeoplesBank a little bit more because of that. And so that's the angle that's in it for us, is we want to show how much we care for all of these causes, because that's the brand positioning that we have. Yeah.
Well, I am so grateful because you're making an impact in so many ways, and you're making a difference in our communities, and that's great. We couldn't do this without you, and we do need to be more involved. We all need to take a look, myself included. How can I support more of our nonprofits and more of these wonderful organizations in our area? And sometimes when folks shed a light on something, it does make you take pause and say, well, I might not be able to write a big check, but I can give of my time and talent.
Yep.
So thank you.
Well, I'll turn the spotlight and the mirror back on you a little bit, and because the Chamber in many ways does similar work to what we do. You are promoting networking, promoting businesses, connecting with each other, and we support nonprofits with the idea that our folks can go in and network and connect, and the work that the Chamber does to build businesses and help them grow. Economic development is extremely important. We're a local bank. We're only as strong as the local economy is. And the East of the River Chamber and all of the other chambers in the area as well are doing their best to drive economic development to lift the whole region up. So thanks to you, and thanks to the work that the Chamber does, and your board and your volunteers as well, because you contribute to the community at least as much as we do.
Well, thank you for your kind words. And together we'll continue to partner and create a vibrant Western Mass for all of the residents and the communities we serve. Matt, what is the best way for our audience to get in touch with you?
So we have a website, bankatpeoples.com, and within there's a community tab, so bankatpeoples.com/community. On there you will find a simple application to fill out if you're interested in funding. If you're a 501c3 that's active in Hampshire, Hamden, or Hartford County, we encourage you to apply for funds. You'll find our contact information and our phone number there on the website as well. So bankatpeoples.com/community should have all the information you're looking for.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thank you
for being our guest today. And you'll have to come back so we can address some of the other questions I had for you.
Would love to.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us for Conversations with the ERC5. If you'd like to be our guest here at Stonegate Studios in Wilbraham, go to our website, erc5.com, and you can sign up there.